You found your way to Whispers of Crimes, a quiet corner where the shadows of the past are gently told. Here, we speak of real crimes and mysteries, not to shock or scare, but to wonder, to reflect, and maybe to help you fall asleep. So close your eyes, let your thoughts slow down, and come with me into tonight's case. In June 2016, Shannah Boiteau vanished without a trace, disappearing from the side of a quiet highway in Minnesota, leaving behind only questions for years. The mystery deepened. Was she lost? Did she run? Or was something far darker at play? The search went on through the dense woods, the murky swamps, and the long, silent nights. But after 6 years, a chance discovery hidden in the shadows of the wilderness finally offered the answers. What really happened to Shannah Boiteau? Why did she disappear? And what secrets do the woods still hold? Join us as we uncover the chilling truth behind her final moments. This is a mystery that won't be forgotten. Chapter 1. A vanishing in plain sight. The morning of June 22nd, 2016 began as a day like any other. Shannah Boiteau, a 22-year-old woman from Minnesota, had plans to meet up with her boyfriend, but things took an unexpected turn that would change everything. She was in the car with him, traveling on Interstate 94 near St. Cloud, when an argument broke out. What started as a brief disagreement quickly escalated. In a panicked moment, Shannah made an unthinkable decision. She opened the car door and jumped out. Witnesses along the highway saw her running away from the vehicle, disappearing into the dense wooded area surrounding the road. There was something frantic in her movements, like she was trying to escape, though no one could understand why. The boyfriend, unable to catch up with her, quickly pulled over and called for help. Law enforcement immediately launched a massive search. The Stearns County Sheriff's Department deployed teams to search the area, bringing in dogs and helicopters to scan the dense brush. For hours, they combed the woods, scouring every inch, but Shannah was nowhere to be found. Authorities believed she had gotten lost or was hiding, yet there was no sign of injury, no sign of struggle. She had simply vanished into the wilds of Minnesota. Her family, left reeling and devastated by the sudden disappearance, joined the search efforts. They organized volunteer search parties, plastered missing person flyers across the state, and made heartfelt pleas to the media. Shannah had a history of mental health struggles, including issues with substance abuse. She had been struggling with methamphetamine use in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. However, despite these challenges, her family believed she was still alive, possibly confused or scared. They held on to the hope that she had run off and would eventually return. But as the days passed with no news, their hope started to fade. The sense of despair began to creep in, but they refused to give up. Shannah's mother, especially, fought to keep her daughter's name in the public eye. Every lead, no matter how small, was followed up on, but the mystery of Shannah's whereabouts only deepened. Chapter 2. Searching through shadows. As the weeks turned into months, the search for Shannah became a shadow of what it once was. The public's interest dwindled. Stories of missing persons often fade quickly from the headlines, and Shannah's case was no exception. Despite the best efforts of her family, volunteers, and investigators, no new leads materialized. Her boyfriend, who had been the last person to see her, became a focal point of suspicion. He was questioned repeatedly, but no evidence emerged that suggested any foul play on his part. His account of what happened that day was consistent. Shannah was in an agitated state, perhaps under the influence of drugs, and when she jumped out of the car, he couldn't stop her. But what really happened in those moments leading up to her disappearance remained a mystery. Why did Shannah make that decision to run? Was it a desperate attempt to escape something or someone? Or was it simply the result of a mental health crisis? Despite the many searches and tips that came in, there were no signs of Shannah, no trace of her in the woods, no evidence of her ever reaching out for help. Months turned into years, and Shannah's name became another face in a long list of unsolved cases. Her family, particularly her mother, kept her memory alive through social media and missing persons advocacy groups. But as time passed, the search slowed down, the case went cold. However, there were still whispers of sightings. Over the years, people claimed to have seen Shannah in various cities, from Minnesota to neighboring states, but these reports were rarely substantiated. Some suspected she might be living in a different city, choosing to disappear and escape the pressures of her life, while others feared something more sinister was at play. But without solid evidence, the case remained in limbo, and the questions only piled up. Chapter 3: Echoes from the Interstate. Then, in the fall of 2021, a hunter in a remote part of Stearns County stumbled across something unsettling. The hunter was trekking through thick woods near the Sauk River, not far from where Shannah had vanished 5 years earlier. As he moved through the dense brush, he noticed something unusual, a set of bones partially exposed on the forest floor. It was the kind of discovery that might seem insignificant in the moment, but something told the hunter that these remains were human. The hunter immediately alerted authorities. When police arrived, they secured the area and began investigating. The remains were carefully collected and sent for forensic analysis, though there was no immediate confirmation about who they belonged to. Speculation ran wild. Could they be Shannah's? Or perhaps someone else who had disappeared in the area? Despite the uncertainties, there was a quiet hope that this discovery might bring some answers. At first, authorities were careful not to speculate publicly. No one connected the remains to Shannah directly. But the proximity to where she was last seen, combined with the fact that the remains were found in an area so difficult to access, made the possibility seem more likely. Weeks passed before forensic results came in, and on January 26, 2022, the news everyone had feared was confirmed. The remains found in the woods were, indeed, those of Shannah Boiteau. The moment was bittersweet. Shannah's family had spent 6 years waiting for closure, but now that it had arrived, it was not in the way they had hoped. While there was no longer uncertainty about her fate, the realization that Shannah was gone forever was a heavy burden to bear. Chapter 4: The Truth in the Bones. When authorities finally confirmed the identity of the remains, they also revealed that no signs of foul play had been discovered. It was both a relief and a source of anguish for Shannah's family. There was no evidence of violence or criminal activity, yet that left so many unanswered questions. How had she ended up in such an isolated part of the woods, and why did she run in the first place? Was her death truly the result of a mental health crisis, or was there something more to the story? Shannah had struggled with mental health issues and substance abuse in the months leading up to her disappearance, and many speculated that her state of mind may have led her to make irrational decisions. Was she suffering from a psychotic episode when she ran? Had she wandered into the woods, lost and disoriented, unable to find her way back? These were questions her family asked, and while they may never fully understand what happened, they could not help but feel that the lack of answers added to the tragedy. The remains were found in a marshy, rugged area that would have been difficult to traverse, even for someone in the best of health. The terrain was unforgiving, and it was easy to imagine Shannah, disoriented and alone, succumbing to the harsh conditions. It was a slow death caused by exposure, dehydration, and the overwhelming isolation of the woods. As difficult as it was to accept, some found solace in the fact that there was no evidence of foul play. It meant Shannah had not been the victim of a violent crime, and for her family, that was a small comfort. but the questions surrounding her final moments would remain a source of pain. Chapter 5. What the Woods Kept Silent. In the years following Shannah's disappearance, there were countless searches, dozens of volunteers combing the woods and marshes, hoping to find any clue that might lead to her. Yet, for 6 long years, the forest remained silent. No body, no signs of her, no trace of where she had gone. And when the hunter found her remains, it was as if the woods had held on to its secret all that time. How had she managed to disappear so completely? How had she ended up so far off the beaten path in an area that was so difficult to reach? The landscape around the Sauk River was dense with brush and difficult to navigate. It was easy to get lost, especially without proper equipment or resources. The fact that Shannah's remains were discovered so close to where she had disappeared was both a tragic coincidence and a small piece of the puzzle falling into place. Perhaps Shannah, in a moment of confusion, had wandered further into the wilderness, unsure of where she was going. It's possible that, in her mental state, she lost track of time and distance. The loneliness of the woods may have been overwhelming, but without the resources to survive, she was left at the mercy of the elements. The forest, with all its beauty and serenity, had claimed another life. And yet, despite all the time that passed and the silence from the woods, the discovery of her remains allowed her family to finally begin the long road toward closure. For years, they have lived with the question of whether Shannah was still alive. Now, they could grieve in a more tangible way, though that did not diminish the depth of their sorrow. Chapter 6. The Long Grief. The grief of losing someone in such a mysterious way is not easy to describe. When someone goes missing, the heartache is magnified by uncertainty. For Shannah's family, every day without knowing what happened to her was another day of agony. The waiting, the hoping, and the emotional toll of not knowing whether she was alive or dead made the years of her disappearance unbearable. But once her remains were discovered and identified, there was a sense of relief mixed with profound sadness. Shannah's family no longer had to hold on to the hope that she might be found alive. They could finally begin the mourning process. It wasn't the outcome they had wanted, but at least now they had something to hold on to: her remains, her memory, and the knowledge that she was not forgotten. Her mother, in interviews and public statements, spoke of the immense pain that came with the discovery. She described the feeling of living in limbo for so long, of hoping and praying that one day they would find answers. The emotional toll of those years was immense, but with the discovery of Shannah's remains, they could start to heal, though the journey would be long. Shannah's death was not just a personal tragedy for her family. It also highlighted the broader issue of mental health and addiction. Her struggles were not uncommon, but the lack of awareness and support for people like Shannah made it even harder for her to find the help she needed. By sharing her story, her family hoped to bring attention to the struggles that so many people face in silence. Chapter 7. A Name Remembered. Shannah's case may not have been one of foul play or mystery in the traditional sense, but her story still resonates with many. It serves as a reminder of the complex and often misunderstood struggles that so many people face and the importance of mental health awareness. Shannah's name, once lost in the shuffle of missing persons cases, is now remembered not just as a tragic case, but as a human being, a daughter, a sister, a friend. She had dreams, hopes, and a life ahead of her, but that life was tragically cut short. Her story continues to inspire those who advocate for missing persons, for mental health awareness, and for those who struggle with addiction. And in Stearns County, where the woods once hid her secret, her memory lives on, a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the importance of never giving up on those who are struggling, lost, or in need of help. Shannah Boiteau may have left the world too soon, but her name will always be remembered. That's all for tonight's story. Another thread in the web of true crime, quietly unraveling as the night goes on. If you're still with me, thanks for listening. And if sleep has already taken you, may your dreams be peaceful and your mind at ease. I'll be here next time by the fire with another story waiting to be told. Good night, and don't forget to lock your doors.